So, like, I went in with a fair amount of anxiety, like, I don't know. I'm not European, okay? I'm not used to walking around like this.
Right.
So it just felt a little weird to me.
I
I'm
don't
not
even
gonna
walk around
lie.
my house naked when I'm by myself.
This is the Exploring the National Parks podcast with Dirt in My Shoes. My name is Ash, and I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. I think that the parks are best seen from the trail, and I'm here to make national park trip planning easy.
And I'm John. I carry the kids on the trails, I tell stories, and notice all the things that Ash doesn't care about much, like birds.
Join us as we show you around America's spectacular national parks.
We're sharing our favorite places, fun facts, adventures, and misadventures.
And we'll even throw in a little trip planning.
Let's start exploring.
John's real proud of himself because he just flipped me off on purpose while we're counting down our starting of the podcast recording.
We're having one of those days, aren't we?
It's like, he's bugging me. Just a lot of the things he's doing is bugging me today.
Sometimes I seem to be pushing buttons that I'm not intending to push. And so I thought that I was asking a pretty normal question. And then she did not respond how I intended. And so then I started the podcast, counted it down 3, 2, 1, and I realized
You did it on purpose. Oh, you realized you could send a message.
I realized I could send a message.
Well, New Year's resolution 2025 for Ash, get a new husband who's nicer to her.
All right. Well, great way to start off 2025, folks. Welcome back to the Exploring the National Parks podcast.
I hope you had a great Christmas season. The other day, was reminded, sadly, that this is like the beginning of like making the reservations for like the entrance reservations for national parks.
Mm-hmm.
This time of year always gives me anxiety because I have to help everyone get these reservations.
Right.
But so why I was reminded about this was because I was trying to get tickets to Wicked, not the movie. I refuse to see the movie. I am a purist.
Ooh, you just alienated
I know.
so many people.
No, I've seen Wicked in London and I've seen it in New York, and I do not want to see the movie. I'm not a fan of stage to screen adaptations.
Right. People were that way with Les Mis when it first went from screen to stage.
And
stage
really,
to screen.
like, just it doesn't compare. It doesn't even come close to comparing when you're watching it on a TV. But anyway, side rant, Wicked is coming to Salt Lake City this year. And I want to go. John's never been.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, I'll take John. I mean, he can see how amazing it is. And I went to go get tickets and they put me in a dang queue. I hate those things.
Right.
Where you like click the button. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this. The national parks don't do it this way.
Canada's national parks do.
Canada's do. And so when you're trying to get a reservation, like they open everything all up at once. And we've had to do this for Banff and, well, all the Canada parks that we go to. But they'll open it all on one day for the whole summer.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, why? Because then there's tens of thousands, 100,000 people trying to get these reservations all at the same time.
Right.
So then they put you in a queue and you have to sit there and wait. And you start at like, there's 70,000 people in front of you.
I know.
You know, when you get in this queue, it tells you how many. Anyway. It did it for Wicked, and I was just like, oh,
and you're just
it's that time of year.
You're just watching and waiting, and slowly all of the reservations that you want are getting taken from you.
Oh my gosh. So I did get the tickets.
Yeah, you did.
So it was fine. It worked out really good, actually. But it just reminded me like that. My anxiety levels went up a little bit because I was like, oh my gosh, January. It's reservation season.
I know. It's because all of our national parks are so popular.
Ooh.
Did you catch that?
I know about popular.
Having not seen it, I have 3 older sisters and a wife that loves that show. So I know the importance of being popular.
Yes.
Is that how it goes?
You're doing great. You're doing great. So just a friendly reminder that if you plan on going to a national park this year, now is the time to double check and make sure that this national park doesn't have their reservation systems already up and going. because a lot of people miss, like, if you can get in there and you can make that reservation on that initial release, you have a much better chance than trying to get a last minute one the night before, which a lot of them do.
Right.
That is very stressful because then you have to plan your whole trip and just hope you get it versus like being prepared now and trying to get it now. And then if you don't get it, coming up with some alternative ways to get in, or you still have time.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So anyway, Glacier, Arches, Yosemite, Rockies don't typically start until later. Cadillac Mountain and Acadia. All of those are going to start getting going. Mount Rainier, they added that one. So anyway.
It seems like these reservations are here to stay, folks. And so it's just something we're going to have to learn to deal with. If you've grew up not having to worry about reservations and stuff like that, it's kind of like the law of gravity now.
Defying gravity?
Yes, exactly. It's not going anywhere. So this is the time to think about it.
We're defying gravity because we're the ones who get the reservations.
Right. Dirt in my shoes people defy gravity.
So anyway, happy 2025.
Yes.
I hope that you have a great year. I hope you're able to get to a bunch of national parks. We are starting off the year in a very strange way with a very strange park.
An awesome park, though.
As we were planning this, as I was going through all my stuff and researching and preparing for this, I just kept chuckling to myself, reliving all the weird experiences I've had at Hot Springs.
Yes.
But we were talking about Hot Springs National Park today. It's in Arkansas. I think a lot of people will be surprised to know that this is one of the top visited national parks in the country.
It's awesome.
It was number 14.
That's wild. For such a small national park.
Glacier was number 11, to put it in perspective. You know how many people love Glacier.
Wow.
So Glacier only had a little bit more visitation than Hot Springs National Park.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because glaciers got less popular.
No.
Visitation dropped?
I think the entrance reservations, actually, a lot of people aren't going or not able to get in.
It's deterring some people.
It is. Okay. But Glacier typically is not much higher than that on the list. Usually Glacier is around like 9-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And this past year it was 11. So
okay,
it's not usually like one of the top 5 or anything, which is surprising as well.
But still, for this national park, in an area of the country where there's not very many national parks.
Yeah.
This specific little spot gets so many people that come to it. It's such a unique thing. The whole culture around this national park, it just makes you giggle.
I really was. I was just like chuckling to myself and I was like, you know what? It was so strange, but I loved it.
Yeah.
That's the overall, like, it was really weird.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
Would I go back? Abso-freaking-lutely. It was so funny.
Yes.
And so fun and so different. And it's not like quite like Gateway Arch level of like shouldn't be a national park, but it is definitely an urban national park. Well, it's in the middle of the town.
Right, exactly. It's very different from traditional national parks that you're thinking of within the national park system, which is why you mentioned Gateway Arch and things like that. It feels more like a Canadian national park where a lot of times the city and everything, you're driving around the city, you're walking around downtown and you're still in the city or you're still in the national park. That's kind of what it feels like.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the unique national parks that actually has a claim to the first national park.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So the first official national park is Yellowstone, 1872. That's when they made it America's first official national park. But people from Yosemite will be like, wait a second. Yosemite was made a
state park.
It was a state park before.
Yeah.
So the idea really originated here. Well, Hot Springs was even well before that.
Yeah.
Andrew Jackson turned it into a federal, protected reserve park.
Yeah.
And so this is well before Yellowstone or Yosemite.
So Hot Springs is raising its hand going, I don't know.
I know.
We have hot water too.
I know. It's so
And
cool.
we were first.
Yes. But it was like the 18th official national park. It wasn't inducted into the national park system until later than all the other places.
But it was set aside as a protected area, which
Right.
is where the gray comes in. So
Exactly.
it is. It's got a really colorful, unique history, which we will talk about more in the Fun Facts episode.
We'll get into a lot of the history, because especially the human history.
Yeah.
Because this, if you even go to the national park website for hot springs, it's like this is where history meets nature
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. They kind of come together here in a really unique way. And so it's just a really fun place to be like, wow, this is really interesting. But the real reason why it's so spectacular is this place is all about the water. It's
Yep.
called Hot Springs National Park, which is maybe that's why they didn't call Yellowstone Hot Springs National Park, because the name was already taken.
Yeah.
I don't know. My Twitter handle can't be Hot Springs.
We better come up with something else.
Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Okay, that works.
Could have done better, probably.
Right.
Yeah, so I think today we're just going to jump in on the activities, the things you can do, kind of what to expect as you're planning your trip here.
Mhm.
And then for the fun facts, we'll probably touch on a little bit of fun fact stuff, but for small parks like this, we're trying not to overlap too much.
Right.
So if you want more of like the history and the people and stuff like that, how the water is heated, that's fun facts material. So
Right.
watch for that episode coming here in a few weeks. But today we want to talk about just what it is and what you do.
So a super, barely scratching the surface, what is Hot Springs National Park? Thomas Jefferson, when he did the Louisiana Purchase, he sent some people into this area to explore this part of what he bought. And they found...
It's also crazy that this was part of the Louisiana Purchase. And also all the way out here in Utah where we were,
Exactly.
It's like Arkansas is pretty far from here.
Exactly. What a huge purchase that
Yeah.
was. So much land. What a deal.
Yeah.
Great job, Thomas Jefferson. Anyways, the people came out, they explored, they found this area where a whole bunch of hot water is coming out. And this is where I think we don't realize how far we've come as a civilization in terms of health, medicine, and stuff like that. Because when they found this hot water, really soon, they just started building bathhouses. They just started building places for people to come because they were like, this water has medicinal purposes.
Well, and it's been like that forever in a lot of different places. Like people flock to the areas that have the better water, better air for their health.
Mm-hmm.
They're not living in those places,
Exactly.
but they're coming to those places to feel better.
Right. And so almost all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this little town in Arkansas just becomes this, it's not really a resort town. It's like what do you go to?
A strip mall?
It's a spa town.
Oh, a spa town. I was like, a strip mall?
A strip mall? What are you talking about?
I was just thinking how everything's right in a row and
Yeah.
you can get whatever you want right along this main drag. That's what I was thinking.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But no, just out of nowhere, the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, this spa town just bursts onto the scene, and it bursts onto a scene in a time when people were thinking about mineral waters as healing waters. And so people from all over the country are just flocking to hot springs, and they're drinking the water, they're bathing in the water, they're being prescribed by their doctors to come to this place for a couple of weeks to improve their health.
Mhm.
And so what we have now, when you go to hot springs now, is you're seeing the remnants of a time that is kind of past.
Well, they said, as we had better medicine
Uh-huh.
and things got better, then a lot of people stopped coming to places like hot springs
Mhm.
because it's like now we have penicillin, so we don't
Right.
need to drink hot water. And so you do have a really interesting mix between seeing what it used to be
Mm-hmm.
and seeing what it is now that there's just not that draw as there was.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So it's it did almost become more like a ghost type town when people stopped coming to hot springs for medicinal purposes,
Right, and so-
for health reasons.
And so during its heyday, you had all of these really beautiful bathhouses being built. And you had famous people from all over the country that were coming here, spending tons of money, spending tons of time here, and improving their health. And then when that dried up, that's when, you're exactly right, it kind of became a ghost town. but it's sort of had a revival a little bit as the National Park Service has renovated a lot of the buildings and repurposed them.
Do you want to know what my first thing I typed into Google when I was preparing this?
What?
The first thing I typed in was name of the giant creepy building in Hot Springs, Arkansas, because there are a lot of buildings here that have been shuttered and just completely abandoned.
Right.
So you do get that vibe. It's almost like a ghost town in Nevada vibe, but people still live there, but it still kind of half feels like a ghost town.
Yeah.
Because there's this huge, and the building I was thinking of is the Army Navy Hospital, which is right back behind the main drag of Hot Springs National Park.
Right.
It's this giant, like, man, it looks like a Ghostbusters building.
Yes,
And
exactly.
It's huge. It's this huge hospital that was built in the heyday of like when people were coming here because it was a health area, it was a health zone.
Yeah.
It was World War II is what this one was.
Tens of thousands of veterans went through there to get rehabilitated. And then even after those wars and things like that, it was kind of repurposed as like, yes, you can also get retrained to do, it was a school for a little while. You can get trained on a trade. But
it's been shuttered.
Yeah.
And it's this huge foreboding like building, right? On the Hot Springs skyline.
Yeah.
That they are actually trying to turn it into something else from what I could tell. Obviously, it'll probably take a while. But it's just, when you drive into town and you see this building and you're like on your way to the bathhouses and you're like, I think I just entered a ghost town. Like it does kind of give like a pretty cool, creepy vibe.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few different places in Hot Springs that are like that. But anyway, so when you get there, I mean, I just think it's nice to go in kind of with the expectation that it's not like any other national park you're ever going to go to.
Right.
The buildings are the main event. You're going to be in the middle of town walking Bathhouse Row, which we'll talk about here in a second. And there are revivals still happening here because this town has gone from like really popular to like nobody wants to be here and everything's shutting down. And now they're trying to get it all fixed up and open again. So it's just a really interesting vibe.
Yeah.
But I think it adds to the experience because it's just kind of like there is history on every block.
Right. It's interesting that you did that because I've been trying to figure out like what the vibe of Hot Springs is. And it's almost got a Gatlinburg vibe because it kind of has a bunch of interesting like tourist trap things.
It's like a seedy Gatlinburg. There's mob history here.
Yeah.
And there's the revitalization that's still happening. And there's buildings that look like ghosts live in them. Huge buildings.
Exactly. But then it's also got like a theme park and it has an alligator farm and a wax museum and an aquarium and a horse racing casino. But at the same time, it's like, but this place is all about your health.
Right.
And so it's such an interesting vibe. It's got something for everybody. And so you can go there, relax, and enjoy all of this interesting stuff around you. But you're exactly right. The main thing is this Bathhouse Row, that it's all about the water. And this Bathhouse Row is sandwiched between two giant creepy buildings, the Arlington Hotel, and then you've got the other end. That's where you've got the former Army Navy Hospital. And right in between along Bathhouse Row is where you've got on one side of the road, all of these beautiful like Victorian style bathhouses. And on the other side, you have the modern amenities and a bunch of shops and stuff like that.
I have to say, I am obsessed with these bathhouses.
Yeah.
And I love that they are revitalizing this area of history because what's really cool. So your main focus when you go to Hot Springs National Park is Bathhouse Row.
Yes.
That's what you're going there to see. And so I think it said like 8 or 9 bathhouses that have been there historically. They have different uses now. But you walk along Bathhouse Row and they're just these, like John said, gorgeous Victorian buildings. One of them, the Fordyce Bathhouse, is the visitor center.
It's the largest bathhouse on Bathhouse Row. It's
also probably the coolest visitor center I've ever been to in a national park.
Yes.
I'm obsessed with that visitor center. I was like, this is crazy cool because you walk in and You can talk to the rangers and stuff, but then they let you tour the bathhouse. So they basically have it open as a museum that you walk through, and you get to see all of the different devices that they use in these bathhouses back then. You get to see the bathtubs. You get to see the sitz baths, which are like the ones that only cover like your bum and your lower back.
It's like you're sitting in a giant sink.
Yeah. They have steam chambers. They have needle showers. Like they have all this stuff. They let you walk through, like there's separate changing rooms for men and women. Historically, that's what you would have seen. There was like a gym that you can walk through but like a 1920s
gymnasium where you see all these funny exercises that they were doing just to illustrate how different like our gyms are from their gyms now and how our knowledge about health science has come so far.
And then they have like stained glass and statues
and marble.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so you're walking through this and you're really taking on a journey of like what it would have been like to come here as a guest at Hot Springs, wanting to come and soak in the water and drink the water and restore your health. And it wasn't just people who are sick either. It was the elite who were coming here and strolling down the Grand Promenade, which you can do behind the bathhouses, and they'd all want to be seen. It was a luxury as well.
If you've seen like the Great Gatsby movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, or if you ever watched Downton Abbey, any of the movies that you see with the flapper dancers and things like that, these really ritzy people, this is where they came for their retreats, for their spa weeks. But the people would spend weeks here and they'd spend so much. Babe Ruth spent time here getting his body healthy, ready for the next season, between cigars. So as you're like walking, especially as you're walking through the Fordyce.
Yeah, the Fordyce is just so cool.
It's been restored to really showcase how this place really was. It's nothing like what it appears like now from the outside. The inside of the Fordyce, you're walking through, everything is stained glass and marble and the nicest finishings possible. And you're just imagining everybody when they're not in a towel or in a bath, they're in a tuxedo. When they're holding on to their cane while they're taking a turn around the room, you know, like in Pride and Prejudice, one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Come take a turn around the room with me. It's that feel. It's that vibe. This vibe is so cool here. And the Fordyce is amazing.
I love the Fordyce. I think it's the coolest visitor center in the national parks because of just the way it transports you.
Right.
The Lamar Bathhouse is the park's gift shop.
Right.
So that's a really cool stop too. Again, another old bathhouse that's been revitalized into something.
Repurposed. A lot of these have been repurposed. It's the Bathhouse Row Emporium is the name of the gift shop there.
Yeah, so that's fun. But just as you're walking through the gift shop, you're also thinking like, this is a historic bathhouse.
Yeah.
It's been here for 100 years.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. They put a brewery in the Superior Bathhouse.
Yes.
Which they actually use the thermal water to brew their beer.
Then they have this amazing root beer.
Yeah. We're not beer drinkers, so we got root beer and it was really good.
Oh my gosh.
So that's kind of fun.
If you look at their menu, it's not just the root beer. They have root beer like caramel brownies.
Yeah.
And you can get the root beer float. And it's the only place in the world, the only brewery in the world that uses thermal water to make its stuff.
Yeah. That's in an old bathhouse as well. So now we're getting to the main reason that you're here, which is to actually enjoy the water, to actually soak in the water.
Right.
So there's 2 different bathhouses that are still running that you can actually get in the water. The first one is the Quapaw. And the Quapaw, so I did that one. John didn't. John is not a soaker.
I am not.
John does not like hot tubs, especially
community hot tubs.
Not his favorite.
What I will say, though, is that this one actually looks really interesting to me because inside it, they have these giant Roman-style open pools.
Yeah.
That remind me of like the prefect bathroom in Harry Potter 4.
It does kind of feel like that, yeah.
When Cedric Diggory tells Harry Potter, take your egg and go mull it over in the water in the prefect bathroom. And then you have that scene with Moaning Myrtle and everything. But I'm like, are you kidding me? That bathtub just for like 2 prefects or whatever? It's huge.
Yeah.
And
it was kind of like that. So I went by myself.
Yes.
Because here's the other thing. Like, little kids can't go in the baths.
Right.
Your kids have to be a certain age. And the last time we were here, our kids were not old enough. And so we had to trade off on everything. And since John hates soaking in other people's skin cells, he went ahead and let me go to Quapaw.
It was a big sacrifice on my part, but I sent her anyways.
But I love stuff like that. And Quapaw was nice. I mean, it was more just like your traditional spa. It's definitely like the nicer of the 2 bathhouses as far as like if you actually want to go and soak and relax and get like special treatments and stuff like that.
Right. They have private baths too.
Yeah.
You can get all kinds of spa treatments and massages, facials and things. They also, it's closed at the moment, but they have like a steam cave that's kind of like a sauna steam room mix.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah. They've made it pretty fancy. So if that's your vibe, then Quapaw would be the one to go to. The other bathhouse that is still running is Buckstaff Baths.
Which is the main experience.
And Buckstaff has never closed. It has been a continuously run bathhouse for over 100 years.
And it's the only one that never closed.
Yeah. John and I both did this. They keep men and women separate.
So there's no couples experiences here.
Here's the thing that I will say, that after walking through Fordyce, the visitor center, and seeing what a historic bathhouse looked like, Buckstaff is like exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, all of the stuff that you're using in Buckstaff, it's all the original bathtubs and all the other original equipment. So you're having the same experience that people had, that Babe Ruth had.
Yeah.
You're having the same experience that Al Capone had.
It's by far, for me, the superior experience.
Yes.
Because that's what you're going to hot springs to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can sit in a hot tub anywhere.
Right.
And so that's why, for me, like, Quapaw, it was nice. But, like, we got to Buckstaff, and it was like, oh, my gosh, this is so weird. And what's happening to me? And why are we doing this? But I love it.
Exactly. Because you have to remember that, like, during the beginnings of this time, you know, in the 1800s and the early 1900s, there were still, like, imagine yourself like in an old time Western saloon where they're literally carrying buckets of water up to the baths,
right?
Stuff like this. And so a lot of people didn't have the plumbing that we have now to take a bath in your own bathtub in your own house. And so to have all of the water plumbed into these bathhouses at zero effort to you, and it's just hot and there's tons of it, was a super spectacular and special experience.
Yeah.
And then they're utilizing all of humanity's new modern health medicine and techniques to make you healthier. That's why a lot of this stuff it seems weird and it seems totally different from how we would do it. And some of it is kind of like, wow. But
I feel like I felt that way a lot.
But it's also just a really unique experience that you can't have in any other place, anywhere.
So here's the process, okay? Because I feel like a lot of people have questions for me, like, okay, like, but what's it really like?
Right.
So you get there, and like I said, they keep the men and the women separate. So you get there and you go to the locker room for your gender, and you get naked, and then they like wrap a sheet around you.
You can wear a swimsuit if you're uncomfortable, but most people don't.
But here's the thing, like, I feel like when we went, it was like just kind of unwritten, like no swimsuits.
Right.
Nobody wears swimsuits.
Right.
Nobody. So like I went in with a fair amount of anxiety, like, I don't know. I'm not European, okay? I'm not used to walking around like this.
Right.
So it just felt a little weird to me.
I don't even walk around my house naked when I'm by myself.
So I felt like I was like, okay, I gotta like be okay with this. But then when I was on the website today, I was like, oh, they say all over here, like swimsuit, you can bring a swimsuit.
Right.
I think that's changed,
yeah.
Honestly, because when we went, it was like, well, I mean, you could, but you would be weird.
Yeah.
So anyway, take that as you will. But if you want to wear a swimsuit, fine. But so you strip down, you get naked, they wrap a sheet around you. And you have an attendant who's assigned to you. It takes like an hour, hour and a half to get through all the stations.
Mm-hmm.
And you have an attendant who stays with you basically the whole time and walks you through the stations and gets you set up in the next one.
They take care of you and they're awesome. They're so nice. That was kind of one of the reasons why I was a little anxious. Was like, there's this person going to be taking me naked around the building.
Yeah.
But they're actually, you know how many.
They've seen one butt. They've seen them all.
They have seen plenty. They're not surprised by anything anymore. But they're so nice and they just take the best care of you. And they wrap you in a sheet and they take your. So
your first station is the whirlpool bath.
Yes.
And so that's like your traditional bathtub. It's an old bathtub. They have it, I think it said it was like 102 degrees, which is great.
Yep.
And then it has like this contraption that goes into it that makes the jets.
It's like a motor inside your tub.
It is. And I remember thinking like, not going to get electrocuted, am I, for having this in here? Like it just kind of felt like, I don't know. But anyway, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because like we said, like they're keeping it really authentic to what the experience would have been 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to take a whirlpool bath for 15 to 20 minutes. You're just sitting there soaking. And then your attendant will come and get you and wrap you in the sheet again and take you to the next station, which was the sitz bath.
Mm-hmm.
And the sitz bath, if you've ever had a baby, the doctor will tell you to take a sitz bath before you can like actually get into a real bathtub or like soak your body after birth.
There are lots of benefits to a sitz bath.
So I know I don't love them because I get cold elsewhere.
It really is like you're just sitting in a giant like farm sink.
Yeah.
And so
it's pretty funny actually. I just think it's funny.
And so like most of your body is out and it's just like you're putting your bum in the sink. It's like, I'm just sitting here. It's pretty funny.
So you sit there for a little bit in the sitz bath, and then they'll come get you and wrap you back in your sheet and take you to the steam chamber, which is a really freaky looking machine. I'll tell you what. It's just like a metal box with your head poking out.
It's like you're in the stocks from the Middle Ages.
It looks like a torture chamber of some type.
But it's supposed to open your pores really good.
Well, I mean, steam is good for you. But so you're sitting in this box with just like your head poking out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, that's when they let you drink the water and whatnot. And because they would soak in the water, but also drink the water at the same time. It was, you were doing it all.
Yep.
And so you sit in the steam chamber. And then they'll come grab you and take you to
the needle shower.
Did you like that? I feel like you wouldn't have liked that.
That was the one where I was like, wah! It reminded me, growing up, I was a Utah Jazz fan. And sometimes on TV shows, they'll like take you through the home. That was like the whole idea behind like cribs and stuff like that. You see the famous house of people that you really want to see. Where do they live? Well, I don't think it was a Cribs episode, but I think like the local news channel went to Karl Malone's house or something like that.
And he had a needle shower?
No. Oh. He was like first person that I ever saw that had a shower with like a shower head in front and a shower head in back.
Oh, really?
Because that
was like in the early 1990s.
Yeah. And that's what, but I specifically remember like, why would you have two shower heads in your shower? And I remember Karl Malone being like, so Carl, and he always referred to himself as Karl Malone. It was like, so Karl Malone can clean his face and his butt at the same time. I've never forgotten that, but I think it's been erased from history at this point. But I remember it happening, and I just thought that was the funniest thing he ever said. But anyways, that's what the needle shower felt like to me. It's not like two shower heads, though. It's like Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, where they have that scene where Harry falls into Dumbledore's memory when they were doing the trials, and Karkaroff comes up and he's like in this contraption, like a cage, and then you have people around him like screwing in pointy things that are getting closer to his body all around him. That's like what the needle shower is, and you're just surrounded by all of this metal and all of these little needle-like sprayers that are spraying your body at all different angles and at every different spot.
Yeah.
And so it like turns on and it's just like, whoa. And it's like you have to cover up certain sensitive areas and you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I like stuff like that. I thought that was pretty fun. So So yeah, and then at that point, you can like add on a short massage, which I did. John didn't because he doesn't like people touching him.
Correct. No massages.
Yeah. And so like we said, it takes an hour, hour and a half to get through the whole process.
They'll also put you on a cooling table and like
Right.
wrap you
Oh,
up in
yeah.
the towels
Mhm.
too, and your attendant is super nice and
The heat
attentive.
packs or whatever. Yeah.
They do a lot, and it's just this really unique experience.
That's what's crazy though, is like what you see in the Fordyce is what you do in Buckstaff.
Right.
So it's really cool, actually. Even though, like we said, there's a few times where you're like, I don't know if I'm not sure about this. I don't know if I feel like I want to do this.
If I was to go back, which I will, and I'll do it again, the return trips, I will have no anxiety, and I think I will just enjoy the whole experience.
Yeah.
I think the reason people are, I don't know, maybe I'll just go to the Quapaw, is because they're not used to a lot of the stuff, and the anxiety of the experience
Just
is what
the
keeps them
unknown.
from doing it.
Yeah.
But I am going to go back, and I'm going to experience it multiple times because it's fun.
Well, and we both came out. We had to switch off because the kids couldn't go. And John went first. And I remember him coming back just being like, it was pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty cool.
There's plenty of giggles to be had, but there's also, it's just like a really unique and enjoyable experience.
I don't know of anywhere else you can do all that.
I don't like massages and I don't like a lot of spa treatments, but a lot of that was like Emperor's New Groove. It was a no-touchy experience and I really enjoyed it. And I had all this cool stuff. Loved it. And I did feel healthier for sure afterwards.
I know. Well, actually, it's funny because when I was doing the research and it said a lot of people came here for health benefits and they'd do all this and stuff and they'd be drinking the water. And then we'll talk about, because Hot Springs is surrounded by mountains as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they would go hike a trail or something. And then they're like, we feel great.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, that's what you should be doing.
You're
drinking water, drinking clean water, hiking in the mountains, just spending time outside.
Exercising.
Yeah.
You're doing everything that we know you should be doing.
Yeah.
They are probably just including a few extracurriculars in the evenings with a lot of drinking, smoking, and gambling. But the daytime activities are all about your health.
Feeling awesome.
Yes.
So those are the bathhouses. So it's Bathhouse Row.
And there is a third that you can still experience, like bathing in the thermal waters, and that's at the Hale. So the Hale, they actually turned into kind of a luxury boutique hotel. And they pump in the water. There's only 9 rooms. And so they pumped in, and each room has its own bath.
Has the thermal water.
Has its soaking tub, and you can... So if you don't want to go to a public bathhouse like the Buckstaff, or if you just want to do it in the quiet of your own hotel room, then you can go to the Hale, which they've transformed into this new luxury boutique hotel.
Yeah. So spend a few hours walking down Bathhouse Row, stop into the visitor center, gift shop, the brewery, go pick a bathhouse.
Yes.
We strongly suggest Buckstaff, though. And then behind Bathhouse Row is the Grand Promenade.
Yes.
And this is where people would walk to show themselves off.
Yeah.
But it also, what's cool is it takes you to where the hot springs, the hot water is actually coming out of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to the hot water cascade. We really like Tufa Terrace. It's just a little walk back in there that connects to the Grand Promenade. So definitely take some time walking back there as well.
Yeah, and behind the Fordyce, between the Fordyce and I think it's the Maurice, they have like this really pretty staircase that takes you up to it. And there's a couple of fountains there in front of the Fordyce that have hot water spraying up. And it comes out at like 143 degrees, so it's pretty hot. But they have those fountains and they have some really pretty architecture back in there. Do you remember when we used to watch Poldark a lot?
I love Poldark so much.
Yes, and then he actually got like his position in London. Mm-hmm. And then they did a whole bunch of episodes in London and stuff like that. And there was the park that they would all go to and you'd see all the fancy people.
Hyde Park, yeah. They all walk around and look at each other.
Yeah. Walking through the Grand Promenade is kind of like walking through Hyde Park in Poldark.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
Just imagine yourself walking with a fancy person next to you. And it's really fun.
It is. It's kind of fun to be back in there. So definitely do that. And then The other thing that you'll want to do while you're right here is you need to sample the water.
Definitely.
Don't drink it out of the hot water cascade. Hot Springs actually has actual like spigots around town. There's a whole bunch of them. There's some cold water ones and there's some hot water ones. And they have a map on the National Park Service website that you can take a look at, or you can pick it up at the visitor center, but it will show you where to go. But there is a hot water one right down at the bottom of Bathhouse Row. And that one you can stop by. We actually took our mugs and hot chocolate mix.
Yes.
And we filled our mugs with the hot water and then made hot chocolate, which was really fun.
It was too hot at first.
Yeah.
And we had to wait for it to cool down. But it's super fun. It's so cool. There's actually 3 different jug filling places where people can fill up with the hot water. And there's 2 cold water jug stations, but they're not from the same spot. And so the hot water ones and the cold water filling stations get their water from totally different sources.
So if you're there for a few days, go sample all. We sampled all.
It was so funny. We went on like a water tasting tour.
Yeah.
It was like we were in a vineyard. We were tasting the wines in different locations. It's kind of fun, but the 3 like hot water jug filling stations are all pretty close to the bottom of Bathhouse Row. So there's one right there at the intersection of Central and Reserve. That's where the NPS admin building is. And then as you go up the hill towards the Army Navy building, there's another one that's the Libby thermal jug fountain. And so that's not too far. And then the other one is just down Central. As the road forks away from the NPS building, both directions, going down Central and then up the hill, there's a couple spots that you can fill it up, which is pretty cool. And you will see tons of locals parking their car on the road and pulling out like giant jugs, and everybody's just filling up. It's so funny. I've never been to a place like that where the locals just like park on the road, hurry to fill up 1,000 jugs from the water fountain and then take off. It was really interesting.
Yeah. I'm sure they have their favorites too, because it all tastes a little different.
I haven't seen Bill Clinton doing that there yet, but
We knew we had to get in a Bill Clinton reference.
that's the birthplace of Bill Clinton. So
that tasting the hot water is a big deal there too.
yeah, and it doesn't taste all sulfury and
No,
stuff.
it's not even similarly heated as Yellowstone is. So
Correct.
It's totally different, which we'll talk about in the fun facts because it's pretty fascinating. But yeah, you don't get the gross sulfur taste like you do in Yellowstone.
Or the smell. And so it really is just this beautiful mineral water.
That's Bathhouse Row. And that really is the main area of the national park that you're going to spend most of your time in. There are like some separate areas. Like we stayed in the Gulfa Gorge campground, which is not right there at Bathhouse Row. It's kind of around the backside of the mountain. That campground is really awesome, actually. It's a really nice campground.
So nice. Me and the boys got a haircut there. It was so awkward.
Yep.
It was like in the fall, I think, when we were there. It was pretty late in the fall. And so we just took off our shirts and Ash was giving us a haircut. And then people came walking by and we're just like, hi.
You do what you do when you live in an RV. So no judgments. But yeah, it's a really nice campground right there on the creek. And it connects to some hiking trails. Like you can hike up to Goat Rock, the Goat Rock overlook from there. So just, it's a nice area. And then you have a couple of like outlying areas-ish. Again, this is an urban park. And so not everything is just all in one big block.
Right.
You got to drive around a little bit to get to the various sections that are actually Hot Springs National Park.
Right.
So after you leave the bathhouse area, the downtown-ish stuff that's right there, then you can drive to either like North Mountain or West Mountain if you want to get a little bit more of the nature, which I highly suggest. I mean, you're not really there for that as much. It's not like I wouldn't choose the scenic drives or the mountain stuff over Bathhouse Row. You really need to go do Bathhouse Row if you only have a little bit of time. But if you have some extra time, I mean, we highly recommend going up to the Hot Springs Mountain Tower.
That was really cool.
Because that's pretty cool, and it gives you really nice views of the mountains, and the drive up there is just gorgeous.
Yeah, the tower takes you 216 feet. That's where the observation decks are, 216 feet above the ground. And you can look around at all of it's really, especially when we were there in the fall, it was so pretty with all the different colors and everything like that. And there's a gift shop up there. But the experience, like we talked about what the people would do, the reason that they felt so good and healthy is because they'd enjoy the water. They'd be drinking lots of water, taking the thermal baths, and then exercising a little bit. And that's what the mountains are here for. And so you can go up to the tower, take a few scenic walks or some hikes along those mountains, and just enjoy getting healthy.
And that's pretty much it. Like we said, it's not a huge national park. It's tucked in there in between the buildings in town. So a day or two is really plenty of time unless you plan on doing other stuff. Like John mentioned, there's like a theme park and you're right there in the Ozarks. So there's other stuff you can do while you're down here. But the national park itself, like give yourself a day kind of to wander the Bathhouse Row area and go into the baths and stuff. And then if you want another day or a half day to go to Hot Springs Mountain Tower or go on a hiking trail or something like that, that would be sufficient time.
Right. But that's basically Hot Springs.
Yeah.
That's pretty much everything that you do. It really is. It's a small national park with a really specific way that you enjoy it. But the history and the geology, where the water comes from, there's so much more to this park. And we're going to cover a lot of that in the Fun Facts episode.
You really need to listen to that one because I feel like the more you know about the underlying stuff, the more you'll appreciate what you're actually seeing while you're there.
It's kind of interesting. It feels like what you do now and the experience that you have now is so vastly different from the history of it. You can go there, you can experience what you can in the park right now. It's just so disconnected from its past.
There's a whole nother world that happened and has occurred. So yeah, definitely join the Fun Facts because it's not so much about what you do when you're there. It's having a full immersive experience in the history and, what this area actually is.
Right. It's so cool.
So that's Hot Springs. That's what you do. Again, join us for Fun Facts so you know why you do it and why it's like that. But we're going to jump into today's task, which I have a burning question that I want answered. Over on the Dirt in My Shoes Instagram or Facebook page, we'll put a post up. But I want to know, which bathhouse would you choose?
Right.
Quapaw, which is the traditional spa-like bathhouse, or are you brave enough to try Buckstaff? Does that sound fun to you? Is that something you'd like to do? Let us know. We would love to see your comments. If you have been to Hot Springs also, we would love for you to share your experience in the bathhouses.
Right.
Did you like it or not? Let's just chuckle together for a little bit.
And sharing your experience, and if you would do it again, might just help get somebody else over the hump so that they can do it themselves too.
Yep. So let us know, Quapaw or Buckstaff, which one would you prefer or which one did you enjoy the most if you've already been there?
And once again, thank you so much for joining us in 2025 on the Exploring the National Parks podcast. We love hearing from you. And so if you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. And if you get a chance, go wash some of the dirt off of you that you got on your shoes at Hot Springs National Park.